r/TalesFromTechSupport. That's not my son's laptop. Years ago, had a college student bring his laptop for repairs. Keyboard stopped working, according to him, and he had no idea what the cause could be. After he left, I quickly surmised that someone spilled a sugary beverage on it, so I contacted tech support for the model. Let's say it was HP, and it quickly placed an order for a replacement part. During the call, support also mentioned that a previous support call was made on his laptop for, you guessed it, a spilled soft drink. Noting that information, I proceeded with the order, and when the part arrived, swapped out the keyboard. After verifying the laptop was functioning properly, contacted the customer to pick it up. I left it running on the repair table and moved on to the other tickets. The following morning, I noticed that the screen was blank and decided to tap the keys to wake it up. Nothing happened. Listened and could hear the cooling fan running, so I cycled the power. Power's back on, except the screen is still blank. Reach out to the customer to tell them the situation and see how they wished to proceed. Here is when Dad, a local attorney and expert radio TV commentator, gets involved. He starts cussing at me and threatening me with a lawsuit if I don't replace/repair his son's computer. I calmly inform him that, no, I will do no such thing for a previously damaged computer. Incredulously, he accuses me of lying about previous damage to cover my butt for negligence. That's when I inform him of the conversation I had with HP. Now, I had him dead to rights, but this is where I was surprised. After his brain oddly glitches, he says, WTF are you talking about, HP? My son owns a Dell. My response was that clearly there was some misunderstanding here on your part because I'm looking at HP, not a Dell. No apologies, nothing comes from Mr. Attorney. Instead, he sends the kid to come get the laptop and pay the bill. I had to know what the heck is going on. So when the kid shows up, I ask. He sheepishly admits he had his frat bro's laptop because frat bro had broken the kid's Dell laptop and given him the HP. Guess frat bro never mentioned spilling a Coke on the HP, and this kid figured his parents wouldn't be none the wiser. To this day, Mr. Attorney is on the TV/radio to offer his opinions on whatever legal case is in the news, and I chuckle every time I see him. The only comment says, next time he's on, ring and ask for advice on someone who claims professional negligence against you and give details of the claim without mentioning his name or your name as the two parties involved. Keep pressing on whether you should receive an apology. r/boomers being fools. It's a parking boomer, not an exit. A supermarket in my neighborhood has its own parking area, which has one exit/entrance with a one-way road looping around. I generally just park on the street side to avoid the busy parking area during the daytime at their busiest, so I'm there to get some lunch and pull into an open parking on the street. I noticed a boomer in the parking facing me on the supermarket side has just started their car and proceeds to start gesturing at me like she's busy having a fit. By now I've already stopped my car and am busy climbing out. It's only when I see her reversing out that I realize she wanted to just drive out of the parking area through the spot where I had parked. As I walk past, she rolls down her window and starts cursing like a sailor at me, while she reversed out halfway, blocking cars in the busy loop. I just shook my head and walked past the angry boomer to go get some lunch. Comment says, shame on you for not parking where the boomer wanted you to. /sarcasm. I don't want to stand in line. So yesterday, I went to the pharmacy to pick up my prescription and get my vaccines. Since I had an appointment for the vaccines, I happened to glance at the time when I arrived, 15 minutes early. The pickup line was long and painfully slow. By the time I got to the front, 20 minutes had passed. A boomer walked up to the consultation window that had no line and told the pharmacist she was actually there to pick up her meds, and she didn't want to stand in line with the rest of us, and demanded they ring her up at that window. Since there isn't a register at the consultation window, the pharmacist told the entitled boomer that she could stand in line in front of me. I should have said something to the boomer like she needed to wait like everyone else, but since the pharmacist had okayed this behavior, I just sort of awkwardly took a step back and allowed her to cut in front of me, and the 10 other people patiently waiting in their turn. As the pharmacist was helping the entitled boomer, a little boy in line with his mother began to wail loudly. The pharmacist asked the mom if she was okay, and the mother replied, yes, I'm fine. Him, not so much, but I'm fine. The pharmacist asked, are you sure? And was motioning for her to come forward and cut the line. But without missing a beat, the mom loudly said, no thank you, we are learning life's lessons. Everyone in line chuckled, knowing who that remark was directed to. Soon after, her son calmed down anyway and was happy again. I hope that Gen Z mom has the best karma. I'm American. God speaks the way we do. Can't believe I completely forgot about this. This happened a couple of months ago. I live in the Bible Belt and work in customer service. My supervisor is Ukrainian, and we have one other Ukrainian worker. My supervisor has a mild accent, and the other worker had a much thicker accent. On to the story. Worker was ringing up a male boomer after supervisor helped him. I'm about a foot away from both of them, working on an online order, and had no interaction with Boomer except for witnessing this. It's worth noting that Supervisor is very Christian. Boomer to Supervisor and worker, y'all got the same accent? Where are y'all from? Supervisor trying to make a bad joke. Accent? We don't have an accent. You have the accent. I don't have an accent. There's an awkward pause and my supervisor tries to badly salvage the situation. Are you sure? Sounds like a Florida accent to me. Hell no, I'm born and raised here. God talks the way we do here. I had to walk away because I was trying not to laugh. Like I'm an atheist, but come on. The entirety of the Bible happened closer to Ukraine than the US, and you think God has a country accent? What's the top comment on this one? It's weird how many Americans don't realize that they/we have accents. American accents, broadly speaking, and regional accents. People who hear the same accent as them their whole life will assume that they don't have an accent because everyone around them sounds the same as they do. Everyone has an accent. Also, God, according to the Bible, is everywhere. He speaks every language. God is an ethereal being, though, with no gender, race, or nationality. Jesus was Jewish. Did he mean Jesus? 'Cause he's still wrong. The Speak American thing rolls off their tongue with zero awareness. English was not even a language 2,000 years ago, and the only reason this person is even American is because their ancestors suck at fighting. Oh yeah, this is a good one. Considering how much he believes in God, then he should believe in the story of Babel. That's hilarious. R/boomers being fools. I am not HR lady. I work for a rather large business, and oftentimes people accidentally call me when they're actually trying to reach HR. Like 5 to 10 times a day, I get calls from HR. Usually, I just politely redirect people. I got a call a few weeks ago, and after my normal spiel about not being HR, the lady insisted I try to help her anyway. She sounded kind enough initially, and I do enjoy other people's drama, so I agreed to try to help her. Boomer lady went on to explain that she had visited our business in the past week and left her Apple Watch in a high-traffic area of the business. She had since been able to track her Apple Watch down to a local apartment complex and wanted me to tell her which of our employees lived in that apartment complex. Now, I may not be HR, but I've worked around it long enough to know that no HR is going to give out private employee information. So I quickly apologized for her inconvenience, but advised that we could not disclose the addresses of our employees to her. I encouraged her to call the local non-emergency police line and see if they could help her. Well, the police aren't going to do anything. If I just give you the address, then you can find out which employee lives there, and you can do an investigation. You won't even help me that much? She couldn't even prove it was an employee who lived there, and scoffed at my suggestion that it might have been another patron spending time in a highly public, high-traffic area. Ma'am, with all due respect and concern for your lost item, there is no way any company would just share that kind of information with you. Your only safe option is to notify the police. Thanks for being so helpful. Click. The delusional entitlement of these people. This post has no comments. R/malicious compliance. Boss was reluctant to do anything about deadweight coworker because he wasn't making obvious mistakes. We decided to make it obvious. We had this coworker on our team, and the best way to describe him was to use the Homer Simpson line, "Everyone says they have to work a lot harder when I'm around." Projects given to him usually were not completed correctly, not entirely completed, or not even worked on at all. He violated security protocols, gave out equipment to other departments, and would occasionally disappear for hours. He would always have someone else to blame for his problems, contractors, staff in other departments, but the last straw for the rest of us was when he tried to throw us, his own team, under the bus. We all knew he was skating by because we'd fix his mistakes to keep everything else running. And admittedly, it's hard to get fired from a state job, but after blaming us and having to hear about it, that was the last straw. So the rest of us on the team stopped helping him, and we stopped fixing his mistakes. He wasn't making obvious mistakes before, now they were obvious. The mistakes were piling up, and fast. We would collaborate with him only down to the bare minimum. He had no reason to blame us if our contributions to a project were completed and his weren't. And then came the kiss of death. He took a week off. With him not around, everything that piled up started getting completed by the rest of us. New tasks were completed on top of that, and on time. Even my boss couldn't ignore the simple fact that the place ran smoother without him around. After he returned, everything started piling back up again. So we came into work a couple weeks ago, and it was announced that he had left the organization. Not one person was surprised. The thing that amazes me about this whole thing is that nobody coordinated it. None of us hatched a plan. We all just individually decided that enough was enough. You want it obvious? You got it. It is impressive how much it takes to get fired for some people. My last 2 jobs both featured a teammate who essentially collected a paycheck and did nothing in return. At least my manager here had the balls to do what was needed. It's also amazing that in the end, there's less work to do with him gone because tasks don't need to be done twice anymore. Top comments. Fighting no effort with no effort. Bold, but it's paid off. Nothing like shedding dead weight to make you feel lighter. A response to this, to quote an old colleague of mine many years ago, you can be dead weight, but you cannot be an anchor. Another response, it feels so nice just to let the dead weight pull themselves down, doesn't it? I worked at a restaurant where we'd run all our own food to the tables. We were very teamwork oriented. Everyone ran whatever food was up in the window for whoever. Then we got a new hire who never ever ran food. I don't think I've ever seen her so much as glance at the food in the window. But when she walked by, no matter how busy we were or how much food needed to be delivered. 4 months. Well, one night her food came up, and one by one, with zero discussion, we all looked at it and then walked away. Over and over. Her food sat there for 20 minutes after it was done, without a single one of the 10-ish other servers working that night touching it. She finally came back after her guests had been waiting a full 40 minutes since they had originally ordered their food to see why her food hadn't magically appeared at her table yet. I don't know if she got the message and quit or was finally fired after the manager had to go to her table to smooth things over. But that was the last night I saw her working there. Felt so good just looking at the food and walking away. I did feel bad for the people that had to wait for their food, but the manager took care of them. Yesterday, I sat through my 5th meeting in the last 3 months where the bosses complained about people not pulling their weight. We all knew who it is, so why is the problem not being addressed with that person instead of yanking the whole staff into it? Once I had a coworker who was like this. I had to explain multiple times to my bootlicking boss what a liability he was, to no avail. I would explain every time he effed up but wouldn't press it, because if the company wanted to waste the money on him, it wasn't really my business, not my circus, not my monkeys. Once I objected to a new schedule, and my boss's boss said basically that I had all these resources to finish up in time, including said coworker. Never mind that I wasn't officially a supervisor or anything. For you, when your coworker started throwing you under the bus, it was on. Likewise for me, when my coworker was announced to be one of my monkeys in my circus, it was on. I had heard that you can die from exposure, so it was time for design and code reviews, inviting everybody, e.g. people up the chain of command and people from other departments, including technical marketing. The incompetence was on full display for all to see, much to my boss's displeasure, but at least the coworker was gone shortly. Professor demands we stick to schedule. We stick to schedule. This was last year. In hindsight, I feel a little bad for the professor. He wasn't the worst I'd ever had, and he was up against the university, which was in turmoil behind the scenes, and spearheading an untested new course. Well, that being said, I am paying quite exorbitantly for this education, and he was a right snot about this. So, It was a history course, and one of the assignments was a group project wherein we presented in front of the class. There was a 3-hour seminar taking place in a lecture hall, the last hour of which was reserved for 2 groups to go up and present at a half-hour apiece. This would involve a Q&A session afterwards, just to keep us on our toes, I suppose. Professor really emphasized that we pick the week and topic we're going to present in, and that's that. It's first come, first serve, and if you miss your spot, you get a 0. Thought nothing of it at the time, seemed fair, didn't like his attitude, but whatever, right? Well, I won the lottery with the group I was assigned. They were grand lads and a dream to work with. We decided on an advantageous week to present given our schedules, and we spent the run-up fine-tuning the presentation and really getting it to work. We used a stopwatch and everything. We even brought in outsiders to ask questions we might not predict. All was well. Except we were presenting in week 5, and a disturbing pattern had emerged during the seminars in weeks 2, 3, and 4. For all his talk about keeping things constrained and everyone working within a schedule, whoever went second was screwed. The first group always ran long, and the second group had to make do with at most 20 minutes. You could see the stress on their faces. So come week 5, the rest of the group, a little bit more nervous than I am, worries aloud whether all of our careful planning will be for pot. I decided to throw a Hail Mary, thinking that the worst I could get is a no, right? So I go up right before class starts and ask the professor what are the odds we might go on first out of the 2. After all, we're sure we have this down to 30 minutes. The dude proceeds to rake me across the coals in front of everyone. It was a normal speaking voice, but the podium was right at the door, and people were filing in. Tells me not to ask such a stupid question, and to go back to my seat. I go back, tail between my legs, pissed off, and sit with steam shooting out of my ears for the next 2 hours. Sure enough, the other group goes first. And sure enough, they run long. We shoot concerned looks at the professor, who is too busy watching the other group to notice. Come 50 minutes in, and the first group is just about wrapping up. The guys in my group are silently freaking out about this. Nightmare, right? That's when the professor stands up, polite applause all around, and then says, "Well, I guess we're finishing early today, huh?" Like the scene out of a courtroom drama, the four of us stand up like a shot and ask what the hell's going on. He can't quite hear us from the back, and we're all talking at once, so he asks, "What's going on?" I charged down those steps like King Kong, in the same tone of voice in front of the same door that people were now filing out of. I tell this guy that we're booked for the assignment today, and we have something prepared. What? Turns out he totally plumb forgot that we were presenting today, and that's why he was so mad at my suggestion earlier. So I tell him we're presenting now to an empty room, or he's giving us 100. The poor guy sure did try. Insisted we hadn't signed up this week. We had. Insisted he could schedule us in next week, even assuming 2 of the 4 of our group weren't away on placement for their teaching degree. We booked for this week as ordered. Insisted that he had somewhere to be, not my problem, mate. Dude just had to wear it. After making a phone call to presumably his next appointment, he had to stand there, white as a sheet, and wear it. I'll never forget the look on his face. So we presented to a lecture hall empty of all, but the professor and 2 students who I guess wanted to see more of the show. We got a great grade to boot. Top comment. I was expecting to stand in the middle of the first group for your scheduled start time, but this is so much better. Drama, conflict, victory, embarrassing defeat. This had it all. Lesson learned for the professor, don't be a snot to the little guy. They may just crush your hopes and dreams and free time. I applaud you for handling it this exact way. Having experienced numerous years on this planet, I have had the displeasure far too many times of interacting with people who don't do their job. Again, no ifs or buts or excuses. You either do your job or you fail at it. Thus, I also completely lose my marbles when people fail to do their jobs. "Just tap there," said the cashier, as they ignored me and the cash in my outstretched hand as they pointed to the credit card machine. After a few seconds of being told repeatedly, "Over there, Poppy," I took them up on their word. I slapped the money against the card reader and said loudly enough for everyone around me to hear, "Hey, this machine isn't working. Maybe if I try sliding it through." "Nope, still not working. Maybe you can do better." The other customers had witnessed how rudely I was being treated. They burst out laughing when the cashier finally looked at me and grabbed the money out of my hand. A few more cash-paying customers imitated me, laughing at the cashier's increasing upset. Top comment. It's so strange when people don't pay attention while at registers. I was a cashier in college and a lady and her friend were talking in my line about being dismissive. I rang her up and told her the total. She handed me cash and was 50 cents short. I said, "Ma'am, it's 50 more cents." She rolled her eyes and said, "I want to pay cash," and went back to talking to her friend. I said, "Yes, ma'am. Do you have 50 more cents?" She turned toward me and very slowly and condescendingly said, "I want to pay with the cash," and pointed at what she had handed to me. I said, "Yes, ma'am," and hit the cash button and entered the amount she gave me. I politely asked, "Okay, your total is 50 cents. How would you like to pay for that?" She realized what happened and got embarrassed and said, "I have 50 cents. To her friend's credit, she was laughing at her. Someone says, "LOL, this merits its own post." Someone says, "Shall I dance to or just tap?" About 4 years ago, my debit card did not have the tap capability. My credit cards did, so I did know exactly how to use it. I had so many condescending cashiers try to explain how tap to pay works. R/malicious compliance. No macros, no problem. I love automation. I am an engineer and was contracting for a company some years ago. Part of the work I was doing involved performing the same calculations for 24,000 different cases. This was all done in Excel, and having a formula in 24,000 lines caused the spreadsheet to slow right down and recalculate slowly. I wrote a piece of Visual Basic that would take each one of the cases and calculate it and then paste the answer in the column, but just as values. It took a while to run, but then it was done and didn't slow the spreadsheet down. At the client's request, we were supposed to deliver all spreadsheets as macro-free workbooks. I suggested that we keep a working copy in case we ever had to repeat any of it. I was told, no, save it as macro-free. So I did. Fast forward about 6 months, and I was no longer contracting for them. I get a text message. "Hi, remember that piece of work you did with the macro?" "Oh, yes. We can't find the macro." "Yes, because I deleted it, remember, at your request?" I suggested that I come and rewrite it for them. They said that sounded good. I said, "But I will be paid, right?" To which they said, "No, they just want the macro." To which I said nothing. Consultancy fees for a former employee is 10 times former hourly. Paid up front, minimum 2 hours, rounded up, non-negotiable. OP responds, "Well, they made their choice, haha." Thing is, contractors gossip like anything, and that kind of thing gets around. So it isn't just the money they lose having to do it themselves. People think twice about working for them. Someone says, "Min 2 weeks." OP says, "Ha, got that right." I think they're missing the big picture. OP says, "Exactly. Wouldn't have taken me more than a few hours to rewrite it and run it for them." Why is it that idiots expect work for free just because they caused it to be destroyed? OP says, funniest part is they decided to put 3 of us on gardening leave due to the ineptitude of the spineless project manager who was a yes man and never told the client our problems/issues with the work. So he lied. We got the blame, and then after all that, they reached out. I would have loved to have helped, but well, I went to work for someone who actually paid me. Oh, this is good. I always get stupid management requests in writing via email. I worked in secure environments and shouldn't BCC a copy to outside email addresses, so I kept and flagged and archived those emails on my company's email servers and made a physical printout for my own personal CYA paper file cabinet at home. NLP says, very wise, sir. Yes, I am a bit older and wiser now. I tend to try and get things in writing, and if ever I am asked to just come over here for a word, I will set my phone recording. Always good to check to see if your state is a single-party consent state. That way you can record secretly. Stupid credit union rules. One of the credit unions I am a member of is offering a special offer on 6 months CD. The catch is that it has to be new money, nothing from a current account. So a few weeks ago, I withdrew a significant amount of money from one of my accounts there and moved it to another credit union. Walked in with new money today, bought the CD, and immediately following removed the same amount plus some interest from a CD that had just matured. See where I am going? Someone responds, a few years ago, a friend told me this amazing story of his friend. He was making $22 million a month running a think tank. And what did they think about? Banks. It had been about how to add fees, create programs to make money off us. This has been going on for decades. Bank of America, Wells Fargo. Now I guess they've spread to credit unions. This is something I don't understand what their thinking was. They might as well have just offered it to new customers that don't have an account at all. OP says, I am guessing their thought would be that it would be bringing more money into their business. The look on the manager's face was priceless when she asked me after I bought the CD, anything else we can do for you? Yeah, I want to withdraw cash from this account. They do offer it to new members as well. It's just that it's chasing away long-term members. The main reason I have moved money into other credit unions is because of better interest rates on money market account.